The war at Troy is over. The city has fallen, the wooden horse has done its deeply suspicious job, and Odysseus finally points 12 ships toward Ithaca. His wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus, are waiting less than 1,000 kilometers away. He will take 10 years to reach them. Not because the route is difficult, because Odysseus is brilliant, proud, unlucky, and surrounded by men who treat every clear instruction as a personal challenge. The first stop is Ismarus, home of the Cicones. Odysseus and his men raid the city, take its wealth, and defeat the people near the shore. Odysseus orders an immediate retreat. His crew refuses. They stay to eat, drink, and celebrate until Cicone reinforcements arrive from inland. The Greeks escape, but each ship loses men. Troy was survived. The journey home has already begun charging interest. A storm then drives the fleet toward the land of the Lotus-Eaters. The locals are peaceful, which should be excellent news. Unfortunately, they offer Odysseus's scouts the lotus, a plant that makes them forget home and desire nothing except staying there. Odysseus drags the affected men back to the ships and ties them down. Sometimes leadership means inspiring loyalty. Sometimes it means kidnapping your own crew before they abandon their families for a flower. Next comes the island of the Cyclopes. Odysseus enters a cave with 12 men and finds food, livestock, and enormous storage baskets. His crew suggests stealing what they can and leaving. Odysseus refuses because he wants to meet the owner and receive a guest gift. The owner is Polyphemus, a one-eyed giant who seals the cave with a boulder and immediately eats 2 of the visitors. Hospitality negotiations have failed. Odysseus offers him strong wine and introduces himself as nobody. When Polyphemus collapses drunk, the Greeks drive a sharpened stake into his eye. The blinded Cyclops calls for help, but when the other Cyclopes ask who is attacking him, he screams that nobody is killing him. They leave. Technically, the emergency report is accurate. The men escape beneath Polyphemus's sheep, but once the ship reaches open water, Odysseus shouts his real name back at the giant. Polyphemus then asks his father, Poseidon, to punish him. Odysseus has defeated the monster and personally activated the final boss. The fleet reaches Aeolus, ruler of the winds. Aeolus traps every dangerous wind inside a leather bag and leaves only the west wind free to carry the ships home. After 9 days, Ithaca becomes visible. Odysseus falls asleep. His men assume the bag contains treasure, open it, and release the storms. The fleet is blown all the way back to Aeolus, who decides that anyone this cursed is no longer a guest he wants on the property. The ships sail onward to the land of the Laestrygonians. These giants attack from the cliffs, crushing ships with boulders and spearing the men below. 11 ships are destroyed inside the harbor. Only Odysseus's vessel escapes because he had anchored outside. A rare moment when refusing the obvious parking space saves everyone still alive. The survivors arrive on Aea, the island of Circe. She welcomes part of the crew, gives them enchanted food, and transforms them into pigs. Odysseus goes to rescue them, protected by a magical herb supplied by Hermes. Circe's spell fails, and she restores the men. Odysseus then remains on her island for an entire year. It is worth remembering that this is still officially a journey home. When he finally prepares to leave, Circe tells him that his route must first pass through the land of the dead. There, Odysseus performs a ritual and speaks with the prophet Tiresias, who warns him not to harm the sacred cattle belonging to Helios, the sun god. Odysseus also meets the spirits of fallen warriors and discovers that his mother has died while waiting for him. The adventure briefly stops being a collection of monsters. Home is not frozen in time. Every year he loses at sea is being paid for by someone else. Back among the living, Odysseus sails toward the Sirens. Their song promises knowledge so irresistible that sailors steer directly toward death. He seals his crew's ears with wax, but orders them to tie him to the mast so he can listen. As the song reaches him, he begs to be released. The crew tightens the ropes. For once, ignoring the boss is exactly the correct procedure. Then the ship enters a narrow passage between Charybdis, a whirlpool capable of swallowing the vessel, and Scylla, a six-headed monster waiting on the cliffs. Circe has already explained the choice: risk losing everyone to Charybdis or lose 6 men to Scylla. Odysseus chooses Scylla and does not warn the crew. 6 men are seized from the deck while calling his name. The ship survives, but the cost is visible, immediate, and impossible to explain away as bad weather. The survivors reach Thrinacia, where Helios keeps his sacred cattle. Odysseus repeats the warning, do not touch them. A storm traps the men on the island. Their supplies disappear. While Odysseus sleeps, Eurylochus persuades the crew that starving is worse than risking divine punishment. They slaughter the cattle. Once they return to sea, Zeus destroys the ship with a thunderbolt. Every remaining crewman dies. Odysseus survives alone, clinging to wreckage, and is carried back toward Charybdis before finally drifting to Ogygia. There the nymph Calypso keeps him for 7 years. She offers comfort, love, and even immortality, but Odysseus continues longing for Ithaca. Eventually, Athene appeals to Zeus, Hermes orders Calypso to release him, and Odysseus builds a raft. Poseidon wrecks it, because apparently 10 years of punishment still required one final administrative review. Odysseus washes ashore among the Phaeacians, where Princess Nausicaa finds him. Their king receives him, listens to the story of his wanderings, and gives him safe passage home. Odysseus sleeps during the voyage. This time, nobody opens a bag. The Phaeacians place him on Ithaca with gifts, but Athene disguises him as an old beggar. His palace has been occupied by more than 100 suitors, consuming his wealth and pressuring Penelope to choose a new husband. Odysseus reveals himself to Telemachus, and together they plan the return nobody in the palace expects. Penelope announces a contest. She will marry the man who can string Odysseus's bow and shoot an arrow through a row of axe heads. The suitors fail. The beggar asks to try. He strings the bow. The disguise ends. With Telemachus and a few loyal allies, Odysseus kills the suitors and retakes his home. But Penelope does not accept him immediately. She tests him by ordering their marriage bed moved. Odysseus protests because he built that bed around a living olive tree. It cannot be moved without destroying it. Only the real Odysseus could know. After 20 years away, 10 at Troy and 10 wandering, Penelope finally recognizes her husband. Odysseus has crossed storms, monsters, enchantments, the underworld, and the consequences of his own pride. And in the end, the final obstacle is not a god. It is proving to the person who waited that he is truly home.